is not lost. The past lives inside us. Encoded in the double helix are the experiences of our ancestors. After 3 decades of research, our engineers have forged the cutting edge of biotechnological interfaces. We have unlocked the lives of our forebears. We have opened a window into the past. This is total immersion entertainment. With the press of a button, you will experience the most pivotal moments in history. All from the comfort of home. Welcome to Helix, where the past is your playground.
Hello once again, players of good video games. My name is Nick Pell, and this is my review of Assassin's Creed Unity. Now, traditionally, I always play every Assassin's Creed game that comes out every year. I play them, I generally enjoy them, and so I'm doing the same thing with Assassin's Creed Unity, and then next week, Assassin's Creed Rogue. So, this is my take on that, so I am very into the Assassin's Creed games, so let's see if this one held up. I did play it on PS4, just for background for anyone who's curious. And let's get into it. In regards to the story is probably the strongest part of this game, I would say. Maybe graphics second to that. It focuses a lot on Arno and Elise. Arno is our main assassin. In the story, his father was an assassin, and then he was raised by a Templar, who ends up being Elise's father, and this is all revealed very early in the game. For a good chunk of the story, it follows the interactions between Arno and Elise, because their lives take 2 different paths in terms of their alliances, so it's interesting to see how the game plays on that idea. It doesn't do it as much as I might have liked it to do, but it does make for their relationship to be a very interesting one, and something that we haven't really seen before in terms of an Assassin's Creed game in regards to the unity between Assassins and Templars. So it does make it really interesting in that regard. That is what made the story really stand out and make it really interesting for me personally. This is very much a story of revenge as well, because Elise's father gets murdered very early in the story, and so a lot of the game is trying to figure out who is ultimately responsible behind the assassination of him and getting justice for that person. The game has a very good start. It starts out introducing us to Arno as a young child, kind of along the lines of how Ezio was introduced in his trilogy, and we see his origins, his beginnings before he is made an assassin, and it does it really well. And then the game kind of lags for a few sequences where it's basically just kill this person and then sequence done. Sequences are also very, very short. There may be 2 or 3 missions per sequence, so you get through them like rapid fire. But once sequence 6 hits, and then from that point on, where the story is very engaging, it really touches on the main parts of the French Revolution, touches on the main revolution in '89, it touches on the attack on the Bastille, it touches on the Reign of Terror with Robespierre, it even touches on Napoleon at some point, and it's really, really interesting how it does that, and for me as a historian, I found it to be really intriguing. The present-day story, however, is basically non-existent. You have very few interactions with the present-day world. Ever since the end of Assassin's Creed 3, where Desmond Miles got killed, the present-day story has been basically crap, and I would really like to see that change at some point, in not giving us just a nameless, faceless protagonist in the modern day working for Abstergo and then being recruited by the assassins, because that's basically what this is, and it does get kind of frustrating after a point. In regards to graphics look really, really nice, especially the cutscenes. They look very polished. You can tell that they are next gen for the most part. I noticed that Elise seemed to be more detailed and laid out than Arno did at some points, and I found that to be kind of intriguing in that regard. There are a lot of glitches, though, in this game as of doing this review, and it does get kind of frustrating when you see people just falling out of the landscape or just popping up out of nowhere, and this happens in cutscenes and also happens during the actual gameplay, so it's just something that shouldn't be happening now with next-gen consoles, I would think. They delayed this game for 2 or 3 weeks before releasing it, and so I don't think that there's really a huge excuse for this many issues to be happening. In regards to gameplay is probably the most different thing in this title compared to the other ones. The gameplay is a lot more calculated because you can't just automatically kill somebody if you counter them correctly. you have to basically counter them and then swipe a few hits at them, counter, swipe a few hits. Enemies are all engaged at a certain level, so basically depending on the difficulty of the enemy, you will die either extremely quickly or not take that much health damage at all. It does kind of take a level system, which was something that I didn't really like about the game, is that missions have certain levels that they recommend you play the game at, and yet it is very difficult, at least while playing the game to begin with, to get a lot of the currency and the money that this game has with it, because you're using a lot of it to refill your stock of ammunition and health and all those miscellaneous things that you need for missions to help you survive. And so it does get kind of frustrating in that regard. And then the game just gets really unbalanced towards the end. I found myself pretty much just skipping all the side objectives and just attempting to take down whoever I had to take down, or just fulfilling whatever requirement I had to do and just moving on with that, because it's almost impossible, in my opinion, to get a lot of the side objectives before you're fully leveled up, and you will not be, most likely, by the time the final missions happen. And so I just found it to be very frustrating towards the end of the game, as the enemies just seemed very overpowered. There's also a lot of assassination missions in this game. At first it was cool because it's kind of like a heist mission from GTA 5, where you kind of have to plan out your strategy and do things in a certain way in order to get the kill in the best format. But after like 2 or 3, and then they keep going for like 6 or 7 more, it gets really redundant, and basically every sequence continues to do that, and it just gets really frustrating after a while, because it just gets redundant and gets old and it gets tiresome. There is, however, a lot of stuff to do. There is a lot of collectibles to find. There is an overwhelming amount of chests to find. There's a new lock picking feature which comes into play with the chests. You can go to Versailles, which is one of the few only areas that you can venture outside of Paris to go see. There are taverns and clubs that you can pay money to renovate and unlock and get in-game money, kind of like Assassin's Creed 2 did for a while. There's also time jumps in this game. There will be certain points after certain sequences where the modern day people will contact you, and you'll have to go through a time jump, basically, or a glitch in the system, in order to kind of right the wrongs of the system as Abstergo is trying to hack into you. And you get to go to 3 different time periods as Arno, and obviously he's not aware of what's happening, but it is really cool to see these different areas of Paris and see what potential the future of the Assassin's Creed franchise could look like, and I found that to be a really, really neat part of the gameplay for me. There is, however, the occasional lag. I found this to be kind of mainly in the very beginning of the game when I was exploring in large crowds, and then towards the end of the game, after I had finished it, and I was just doing free play, I found myself lagging a lot more than usual, and also I ended up frozen a few times in character glitches, and I ended up having to fast travel to wherever I had to go in order to get out of that glitch, and it happened multiple times. And so it's really a deal breaker in that regard when a game looks as nice as it does, but these factors just hinder the experience so much that it just gets very frustrating. I ended up starting Rogue earlier than I was planning to, because of this factor. In regards to enjoyment, did I enjoy my time with Assassin's Creed Unity? I enjoyed the story. I thought the graphics were really, really good, but the gameplay, I think, could use some work. It's got an overwhelming amount of things to do. Its gameplay mechanic could be a little bit more balanced, especially towards the end. And I think the time jump feature was a really neat thing to add in. I'd like to see more of that in future installments, just using different areas. Like, this had 3 different versions of Paris, and then seeing different takes on the Americas or on Russia or wherever they end up going for the next one. So overall, those are my thoughts on Assassin's Creed Unity. I did enjoy it for the most part. I would say pick it up if you are an Assassin's Creed fan, and you will probably enjoy yourself. Otherwise, if you're not a diehard fan, probably you don't need to pick this up, because it's not entirely necessary for the story. It doesn't really seem like. For the present day story at least. I would like to see a sequel with Arno in like kind of a la Ezio's type of format, but I don't know if they're planning to do that at all, but it does kind of set up a potential gateway to a sequel at the end. So those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments down below. I'd love to hear them. Let me know if you liked Assassin's Creed Unity more than I did. Did you like it less than I did? Let me know. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Once again, my people, if you so choose, I'd appreciate it immensely. And as always, my name is Nick Pell, and once again, keep on gaming.
Well, that was bracing.
Just like that time in Marseille.
Bit more blood this time around.
There's nothing here.
He must have known his bluff wouldn't hold up.
So we've lost him again.
Maybe not. Let's keep looking. Locked. Maybe we could do that.